Hello, and welcome to another episode of eDiscovery Chicks, the podcast about all things eDiscovery and legal tech, hosted by two gals who will cover the full range of human emotion in today's episode. We're your hosts. That's Bree.
And that's Angie. I hope that doesn't scare people away from this episode.
Join us on our journey.
That's right. So today we are talking about Sweetie, Your Prompt is Showing, which is really all about AI and prompting, are one of our most favorite topics these days. Before we go there, though, we got to check in, Angie. I know it's fall. It's probably more fall-ish where you are in the world than it is here because we're still in the upper 90s. So I don't know if that counts.
Gross.
But every single bit of my body is hanging on to pumpkin spice latte coffees and creamers because I love this time of year. Because of that flavor. Fall is one of my favorite seasons because it kind of feels like a fresh new start, a new beginning. It's also like cozy. You're starting to get towards colder temperatures and fall colors.
Oh, God, Brie, I'm so ready for it. So, as you know, I just spent 2 weeks in Scandinavia where it was cold. It was rainy. It was amazing. I came back and I was like, well, I'm ready to make sweaters my whole personality for the next few months. I can't wait. And okay, so we're recording this today on October 1st, which means it is officially, I have the green light. John and I had a negotiation about this. And I'm not allowed to start buying pumpkins until October 1st. But today, I get to break free and let my freak flag fly and buy all the pumpkins available for purchase.
I'm super jealous because if you buy pumpkins too soon in Texas and put them on your doorstep, they like totally rot in the sun. They just you can't do that. But let's back up about 10 steps to Scandinavia. Excuse me, ma'am, world traveler. Talk to us more about that.
Okay, so aside from getting food poisoning, which was horrible, it was amazing. I loved it. So we did Copenhagen, and then we went up to Oslo and Flom and Bergen. And the last 3 cities are all in Norway, only 2 of which I had heard of. No, sorry, only 1 of which I had heard of before going on this trip. I did not know where either Flom or Bergen were until playing Ticket to Ride. And then I was
I
like,
thought you were saying
oh.
flan and bourbon. I'm like, that sounds like a great dessert and drink. Oh my God. I've gone there too.
Okay. No, it was amazing. We did not bring our kid, which was so nice. I mean, we loved her, missed her every day, blah, blah, blah. But I forgot what it's like to just have an evening free.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what it's like not to hear the word mom 10,000 times a day. And oh my God, it was so nice. I'm like thrilled to be back with her. Now I'm like having anxiety about leaving her for a work trip, but it was just a nice break. I think parents deserve a little bit of a break sometimes. Parenting is
I
hard.
definitely agree with that. I mean, even my kid's much older than yours is now, and he doesn't say mom as much. But even when he's like gone at a friend's house or doing his own thing, it's like a relief. It's like, oh God, somebody doesn't need something from me for like 5 minutes, which usually for him is like feeding the beast since he's Mr. Football Player. But and he's a teenager, so he's eating way too much food all the time. So every time I'm around him, it's like, Mom, what are you eating next? But yeah, I can totally relate. I'm glad that you had that wonderful trip, and I know that you're starting a new beginning of your work chapter too. So it's nice to be able to have that time to regroup and recenter.
Yes. On Monday, I'm starting as vice president of consulting and information governance at TransPerfect, and I am so stoked. Oh my God, it's going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
Yay, I'm so excited for you. They're lucky to have you, first of all, and I can't wait to hear about your adventures there. Their world will never be the same.
And we hope in a good way. Okay, but
Yeah,
it's
of
been a lot
course.
about me. And so I'm now feeling like that kind of guilt. So what about you? Tell me
Oh
about you,
gosh,
Bree. You're
it's
wearing
much
some
more.
fabulous glasses.
Oh, thank you. These are my day off glasses. So, well, I'm a complete dork about glasses online. So I like to go to zenni.com is where I get most of my glasses. But then the ones that are like a little bit freakish come from this Zlol place, which came on my Facebook app. And I'm like, who actually buys stuff off of Facebook? Turns out I do, apparently. So,
God, who are these nerds? Oh, it's
I
me.
know. So that's where these came from, and I've got a couple other funky pairs I've gotten from there too. But yeah, it's my little secret vice. I don't really buy shoes or purses or anything like that, but glasses I'm into. Life here has been a little bit chaotic. I would say it's been probably the opposite experience that you're having. So, we have not had any amazing vacations or adventures. We have felt like we've had food poisoning though, so maybe that's we're in alignment there.
Oh, good. We're synced up.
Um, yay.
On the topic of your secret glasses vice, I listened
Mhm.
to a podcast yesterday about like finding your creativity, and it was with this guy that like records with Bon Iver, and he was talking about how important it is to have like almost a little creative secret throughout your day. Whether it's he was wearing crazy socks, or that, or I've heard people be like, no, like your underwear really matter, or your for you it's like your glasses. For me, it's often my nail color, but like you need a fun little creative outlet like that, and it can just
Yeah.
charge your energy for the day by having it. And I was like, "That's so cool."
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think it's as we get older, we forget that it's okay to, like you said, let your freak flag fly. But, I mean, it's okay to be yourself and be an individual. I mean, when you're kids, it's much easier. It comes naturally to do that, but you forget when you get to be older that you don't have to conform to what everybody else's expectation is for you.
No.
But, one thing I have found out that's been a negative thing about the glasses is that not only like, people always know who I am because I'm the only person that has, like, this salt and pepper hair and that's short, and I have these funky glasses. No matter where I go, somebody's like, "Oh, you're Bree," and I'm like, "Oh, damn. Well, I can't do anything. Like, I'm gonna get in trouble somehow. Like, what was Bree doing here? She's dancing on the bar again." But
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
There's somebody in Houston that apparently looks like me, poor her, and I'll go places and people are like, "Hey, you were just eating here last week," and I'm like, "No, I've actually never been here before," and they'll argue with me, "No, no, no, you were here," and I'm like, "Bro, I know where I was last week, and I was not here." And they'll be like, "Yeah, you had the such and such fish," or whatever, like, they'll remember this person. And I'm like,
She
"Okay, so
sounds
that's
cool.
not me, but, like, did she tip well? Like, is she nice? Is she funny? Does she seem smart? Like, okay, I'm okay with that. If she's a dumbass and she stiffs you on your tip, like, I'm not gonna be cool with that." But anyway, it's really weird, and I kind of wonder if I'm ever gonna run into this person.
I
I
hope
don't
you
know.
do. See,
It's
I
gonna be
think
weird.
I get the same thing. I think because I have, like, a generic white girl face,
I
and
do not.
I sure do.
Oh my
But
god.
I get this a lot where they're like, "I think we played soccer together," and I'm like, "We definitely didn't." Or they're like, "Oh, we played baseball," and I'm like, "Never did that." Like,
Yeah,
"Sorry,
well,
not
so people
me."
think that you played sports with them, they think I ate and drank a lot. That sounds about right.
Alright, well, should we transition off of our extracurricular doppelgangers,
I guess
uh,
so.
back to something more on topic?
Sure, I know that it's been all the rage these days, AI has been. No matter where Angie and I go to speak or podcast episodes that people wanna hear, AI a lot of times, I would say 90% of the time, is somewhere in the mix, and for good reason. I mean, I am one that does not like to conform to what people want or expect, so I'm like, "No, anything but AI," but it really is a worthwhile topic, and so here I am talking about AI on my podcast.
Yes, we are talking about AI today. We have heard your pleas. We are here to answer them. We are crowd pleasers at heart. And so today, like we're going to talk about reverse prompting and how to use that to enhance your efficiency and precision and your workflow transformation. And we felt like this really mattered, not only because we like to give the people what they want, which we do, but because as AI tools proliferate, practitioners in this area of e-discovery and legal tech really face these mounting pressures to deliver quicker, more accurate outputs while also managing risks around privilege, ethics, and quality. At this point, in the AI evolution, Bree and I felt like prompt mastery really isn't optional any longer. It's really mission critical to working smarter and safer.
Yeah, and I mean, coming from this software perspective, due to my day job, it's been really fun to have a front seat to this revolution because not only do I get to see the software minds at work. What are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? How do we want it to appear within our tools? But I'm also hearing the client side. What are the things that they're wanting to do? What are the things they're concerned about? What are considerations that they want to keep in mind as they move forward with utilizing AI in their environment? So it's been a really exciting time, and I'm glad. I'm glad to be a part of it. I think it's pretty cool. Like if you've been around eDiscovery as long as I have, it's really interesting to see just the transformation of this industry in general. I mean, it's been a relatively short period of 25, 30-ish years. For some of you, they're like, God, that's a lifetime. Like, my God, that's nothing. But in that period of time, I do think that this industry has completely evolved in so many facets. So it's pretty exciting. But as we are talking about developing AI and agentic AI and all of that, we do see the reliance and the importance of prompting. And prompting comes from people. So Angie and I are always talking about how AI is not going to replace people, but people without AI abilities or without AI savviness are going to be left behind. And this is one of the reasons why prompting is a huge example of this.
I know, like, talking to folks kind of my parents' generation, they're all like, kind of, it's AI feels like this boogeyman to them. And it doesn't need to be. Like, yes, it's scary, and it's new and kind of wild. But that said, we are moving a little bit beyond the honeymoon phase with it right now. And as somebody who uses AI every single day, I can recommend it. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And it's particularly great. You can use prompting everything from your job to meal planning to, help me find kids' activities. Like what activities should I put my kid in for the winter? Okay, great. Can you find those for me locally? So there are all these applications of it. So the way we want to frame this conversation today is while we look at this through the lens of like an e-discovery and legal tech perspective, I mean, that's our bailiwick really. I think you can take the things that we're going to talk about today and apply them more broadly to your life. Like we said, we're kind of we've moved a little bit beyond the honeymoon phase with AI right now. And a bunch of industry surveys have actually shown that 80% or more of professionals expect new AI driven workflows this year, with nearly half calling Gen AI the top 2025 trend. And we've really felt like this signals almost an end of experimentation. I mean, obviously, we'll have iteration. It feels now like clients are really expecting their lawyers and their service providers to use these AI tools to cut down cost and accelerate workflows. So I don't know,
Yeah.
Bree, how do you feel like people should do this in practice?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question because I think a lot of times when people say, hey, what's going on with AI in your software, for example, which is a question I hear all the time, they're asking because they've been told to ask or they know to ask, but they don't really understand the benefit of it all the time. So, some examples that we can think of when we talk about using AI within the legal industry, anyway, or e discovery or legal tech, are using Gen AI to create a privilege review. We're flagging sensitive material. Every time I see Angie's name on something, I know that she's counsel. I know it's client privilege. We can use that information and prompt AI to flag all of that for us. Why do we need to do all of the administrative work ourselves when we can have AI do that in the background? Also, it's worth mentioning, and now that I'm using that example, that some of this AI has been around for a while. And when people say, tell me how to use AI, I'm like, well, dude, you know about TAR, like, you know about concept
Yeah.
clustering, smart labeling, like these are things that have been around. So privilege review and flagging sensitive material, that's kind of one of those that's been around. But I think that people are feeling more comfortable with it more and more these days, especially as we evolve. But we can also use AI to prepare us for things like depositions or hearings. Hey, AI, I'm going to be deposing Angie Nole. She's counsel for TransPerfect. I need to prepare a deposition on her ideas of, I don't know, podcasting, whatever it is. And so we can start with having AI do that work for us of, okay, I'm finding all the materials that you might need to question Angie about whatever the subject matter is.
Could also do
We're go
presentations or podcast outlines.
That's right. That's right. And Angie, by the way, is a pro at using AI. She really is. She's taught me a lot, and I appreciate that. Building chronologies too is a good example. I need a timeline built for the murder, the murder that happened. I don't know, We're always talking about true crime stuff, but building chronologies is a good example. Agentic AI also takes it even to a deeper level. Agentic meaning there's more than one agent in the background. And when we have more than one agent, they're comparing notes with each other. Hey, I found this answer. What do you think about it? Well, I see your answer, and here's a better answer. And however many agents you've got, they're constantly trying to better the answer to your question. So you're not only able to find the needle in the haystack ish, you're able to find the best needle in the haystack. You're also able to do things like sentiment analysis. How did Angie feel about the murder? How does Angie feel about murder in general? We can
I think
also
this
do
is so cool. The sentiment
the sentiment.
analysis.
Oh, I think it's amazing. Image recognition is a cool one too. Like, hey, I got somebody's phone image and I don't want to look at all their holiday pictures. I really just need to see the picture of the contract that they snapped on the way out the door. So I can go look for only documents, for example. But anyway, those are some use cases I can easily call out with AI, and the use cases will just be growing as we move forward.
I totally agree. And all of this matters a lot, right? Like this is super important stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when we are able to use AI across data that's already been indexed, which this is going to be another thing that's going to happen in the near future, where you're going to have companies indexing all of their data proactively, and they're going to be able to run AI against that. We're already able to do that with like Microsoft Copilot and things like that, but you'll be able to run early case assessment, meaning I want to see if my keywords that I'm picking out are legitimate. I want to see if I use these keywords, how much it's going to bring cost me. I need to figure out if I do use this subject matter, who are the people that come into play and what are the data sources that I need to be concerned with? All of those early case assessment and budgeting questions that we have up front will be much more easily answered. So, a couple of things to consider. One is the modern attachments mess. I even hate
Mhm.
to like bring this up because it's its own subject all in itself.
It's so messy.
It really is. And by the way, if you want to hear or read a great resource on modern attachments, check out our friend Doug Austin and eDiscovery Today. He's done a great job of kind of following that issue throughout the years.
Now, I feel like somebody else I know recently wrote a really good article about this. Oh,
I
it's
did.
you. Our very own Bree Murphy has
I
also written
know.
an article. You can find a link to that on our LinkedIn page. It's a phenomenal read. 11 out of 10 would recommend.
Oh my gosh, not that she's biased at all. And I can't believe they actually let me write something for real. But anyway, that was a fun opportunity. Back to the subject matter of today's episode. But modern attachments are something we have to consider. Does your document set contain them or not? Because if we're asking questions against a set of data, are we going to get the full story?
No, I mean, yeah, that's such a good point. And if we sort of leave these modern attachments as orphans or something, lawyers are going to lose context and there are all these issues. So I mean, this raises the question for me. I feel like there's this universally accepted concept in the e-discovery world that reasonableness and not perfection is the standard. But at what point, like in this issue specifically of modern attachments, like it's good enough, not actually good enough for people to understand the context of their data?
So another issue I was going to bring up too is source diversity, meaning our data sources are all over the globe. I mean, we talked about that in our last episode, the Internet of Things. You
Hmm.
could get data from so many different resources. But if you're sending out AI prompts against a set of data, not only do you need to be concerned with are the modern attachments there, but you also need to make sure that you understand how that data has been processed. If you have audio and video files, is there transcription that took place during the processing so that you're able to run keywords so it's able to derive information from that data set? So some of that is that human factor of asking the questions, how was something even processed so that I can even know that it's being considered as I'm prompting.
Well, and not only that, but so it feels like the world has sort of accepted AI as a thing that is going to influence our lives in very dramatic ways. And yet, all these like study after study shows that a statistically significant portion of professionals identify a lack of e-discovery slash AI skills as their top challenge. For me, as somebody who has had to defend my practices and procedures in court before, this raises this question because courts increasingly equate, quote, not understanding tech with incompetence. And so it's raising this interesting thing here where lawyers cannot plead ignorance when AI tools and use of them and education about them are so widely and freely available to people. Bree, what do you think? Like, are courts going to start dismissing modern attachments as too burdensome, or do you think,
No, I think
yeah,
they're gonna be included more often because I think the capabilities of software are so much more enhanced now, and you're able to actually, number 1, find the modern attachments, but you're also able to preserve different versions of modern attachments within the native applications now. So I think that more and more, you can't really argue the burdensome argument anymore,
yeah?
and it's reasonably accepted that you could and can find that information. So, no, I think the courts will start demanding it more and more.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of my concerns here is law firms' ability to embrace this type of workflow because it's sort of anathema to their billable hour model, right? Where it feels like there's almost this tension between they want to bill, X number of hours per year, and yet it's no longer going to take them X number of hours per year to accomplish these tasks because of AI. I wonder about how that tension is going to play out over time, especially with clients and in-house counsel starting to demand efficiency that is available, but just not as profitable for law firms.
Well, and then you look at the flip side of I'm gonna bill my time for, drafting prompts and coming up with the prompts that we need to run against the AI, and we're gonna run AI across a much larger data set than we ever would have potentially even reviewed in the first place. So,
Yeah.
it may not be as bad as we think, but you're right, and I think that the way that clients are looking at their attorney's bills is also gonna change. Do I wanna spend as much as I was spending an hour for you to analyze an issue on crafting prompts? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No,
Maybe I
I
do,
mean,
maybe I don't.
I don't think so because there's a certain level of like technological expertise and know-how with AI that empowers you to draft these prompts where I'm not going to pay like a lawyer billable rate for that because to me that
Mhm,
I'm not going to pay somebody $1,200 an hour to do that work. Like that's just not
mhm.
what it's about. I know there's been some buzz about the ways that this kind of competence gap with AI can become a malpractice risk, and specifically in the context of hallucinations, and more specifically in the context of hallucinated citations, because US courts are increasingly sanctioning lawyers for filing briefs with fabricated cases. Kind of zooming out on that, the broader impact of that, it feels like these sanctions are not just fines, they also include disqualification and bar referrals and stuff like that. The question that comes to mind for me is like, at what point do we label this as recklessness or just negligence when it comes to new tools? Because I can't imagine just making up a citation, in the pre AI era and submitting that in a brief. Like, no, you check that shit over and over, and then you check it twice. You are Santa Claus when it comes to your briefs. You are checking everything twice just to make sure that you are not, in fact, lying to the court. I've seen a lot of companies and law firms developing AI use policies, but I don't think that's not gonna be a shield if you, like, flout those policies and then submit something untrue to the court because it's an AI hallucination, and so, for me, it almost just feels like firms and companies without those policies might face increased liability as well as liability for actors who circumvent those policies. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now policies so much of the time have to do with saving the organization from their own data or saving the firm from exposing their clients' data to the open web or open AI.
Yeah.
So when it's acceptable for use and when it's not. So I think that's a lot of what our policies are looking like at the moment. They don't so much deal with the liability of what happens when you put fake shit in a pleading, like they that's not really what's included. And I think, when we're talking about the lawyer's hours, that's part of what lawyers' hours are going to go to is verifying those citations, verifying those key arguments that they're for real, they're not an hallucination. And I do think we'll see more and more. It's kind of like that garbage in is garbage out kind of
Yeah.
situation. So
Yeah.
as you populate your universe with more and more hallucinations, you're going to get more of them, right? So it's an inevitable cycle. Also, I think that there's going to be some sort of surgence of people who are training AI. Which, side note, my husband has a side gig where he's training AI, which is very interesting.
Ooh,
That's a
fun.
I know it's a cool conversation all in itself, but we're gonna have people training it to, keep it in line, to call it out when it's wrong, and make sure that we're not putting too much garbage in. So anyway, it's fascinating to understand how we're gonna go through and authenticate our findings with AI. Talk about being held accountable for AI. There are some courts now that are requiring lawyers to keep records of their prompts that they're using. And this is really interesting because, in a way, it's like asking an attorney to keep track of their workflow, their work process. So, does this reveal strategy to the courtroom or to the opposing counsel? Does this reveal your thought process or privilege analysis? Like, we can't be doing that. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of boils down in real life.
Yeah.
And I also think that the discoverability of those prompts is twofold. I mean, not only are we wanting to know what the lawyers are doing to find the data that's responsive to a matter, we may even want to know what the alleged parties are doing with prompting AI. When Angie was planning that murder, how far in advance?
Which one?
I know, right? How far in advance was she shopping for the knife on Amazon or whatever? Who knows?
Fully
Um,
premeditated. I'm sorry. Are you calling me a Brian Kohlberger right now? I feel attacked.
No, I know I'm falling back into our Idaho murders. But yeah, I mean, we might want to figure out motive and intent from a proposed wrongdoing party by looking at their prompts and that sort of thing. So that leads us to how long is acceptable for us to retain that information. If we're an organization, we would put a retention policy on it. What's appropriate? What's not? How do we put a legal hold on that if we need to hold it? How do we get that if it's a third party that's not employed by our organization? There's all kinds of questions that come into play there as we think about the discoverability of prompts.
I mean, listen, I'm gonna head this off at the pass right now. Here's my ChatGPT history from like the last few days.
Oh, no.
Do I have runner's knee? Here are my symptoms. What does it actually mean to bleach your asshole? And do people really do that?
Oh my God.
Here's my Airbnb address in Sedona. Can you recommend some wine tasting rooms within walking distance? Is there food on the train I'm on? It's a Steven Tyler allegations.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
it's eclectic, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're not alone. I am not brave enough to talk about my ChatGPT prompts on the podcast. So I'll just say we probably all have our own little pieces of information we don't want the world to know we're looking for.
Oh, God, it's amazing. So let's actually pivot just slightly to navigating the ethical landscape of all of these issues and like what the bar guidance has been. And for those of you who don't know, bar guidance would be like what a specific state bar or like the American Bar Association or something like that, some entity puts out as far as guidance for navigating this area. And so I want to start with a couple, California and New York. So California has said that lawyers must understand the tools that they use. This is under Rule 1.1 of and discussing professional competence. And I think this is really important because I didn't know how to use AI. I didn't know that was a hallucination. I didn't know how to do this, that, or the other thing. It's not a defense anymore. If you're relying on AI outputs in your filings, you can't claim ignorance. You can't claim you didn't know. Another one that's interesting is New York. And in this bar opinion, 2024-5, it actually goes even further than California. New York goes further and says that candor, diligence, and billing transparency are all duties that practitioners owe to the court. And I pulled this out and I highlight this because it seems to say that billing AI time as attorney hours without disclosing that to your client could be an ethics violation. You owe that duty of candor. You owe that duty of billing transparency to your clients. And so you must exercise that. And I thought this is interesting because we've actually seen some scenarios where clients require advance consent before their law firms upload data to OpenAI tools, which feels like common sense, right? You don't want your confidential information on ChatGPT. That's just asinine. This feels like it might actually slow adoption of these tools as client demands vary, as attorneys are wading into this morass of ethically dicey waters that the industry is really demanding that they swim in.
And I mean, every one of these opinions repeats the same theme, which is that lawyers are owning the output. They're the ones responsible. They're the ones that are going to be held liable for truth or not, or for disclosure or not. That begs the question, so how much oversight is enough oversight? When we've used AI tools in the past, we've looked at things like relevancy percentages. Hey, we are using this algorithm to figure out, what percentage of this data is relevant or not when we're applying AI to it. When is that something we can depend on and rely on and hold up in court, and when can we not? Same thing is going to be true moving forward. If my attorney is using AI, which they've disclosed that as they should, how often or how much do they actually need to be validating this data and validating their findings? And how much can they really rely on software? And what are the thresholds for the software that we can trust the software, number one, and that we truly know where the AI resides, the software is analyzing? Is it open AI? Is it a closed AI model? Are there multiple different kinds of AI being all kind of used in together? Like we have language learning models plus agentic AI, and a lot of these that are working together. And then, auditing third party review. I want to make sure that if my attorney is billing me $1 million per hour and they send me a
Well, let's
bill
hope
for
not.
and they send me a bill for 80 hours at the end of the month, that they're legit. A really great way for me to do that is to keep my own data in my own possession and have control over it and be able to see the activity on it. And that's kind of a little bit different than the traditional, data hosting model that we've had traditionally. So I think that those considerations are really playing in people's minds right now. I certainly see that from the software side. And I think that we're begging for a standard of, tell me what standard I have to keep in mind whenever I'm going through and validating AI. Tell me what standard I can use for the accuracy of it. I need a rating system. Like we have all those kind of foundational ideas that really haven't been developed yet.
Yeah, I mean, but I do want to pause there because I feel like this concept of attorney supervision and oversight and like the buck stops with you, babe, that's not new. This is just a new lens. This is a new iteration of it. But like the buck stops with you, babe. If you're signing those pleadings, you better make sure that everything that goes into those is accurate, whether that means
Hmm.
supervising your vendors or your review team or the associate performing the work, right? So this is just a different iteration of that age old concept. And it's one that, less technologically savvy lawyers, might feel very ill equipped to meet.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's gonna also require attorneys, which this is also not new, and attorneys should already be doing this, but it begs the importance of it even more, which is know your client's data, know how it was collected, know where it came from, know what it
Mhm.
contains and what it doesn't contain. Because even if you use amazing prompts and you have your own amazing workflow, if it's dependent on that set of data that's jacked, like everything's jacked. So you need to really understand what you're dealing with fundamentally. So I think that that's a good thing to keep in mind.
And I think at bottom, you don't have to be an AI expert, but you do have to have an understanding of it that is sufficient to equip you to oversee these processes. And that probably means you're consulting an expert on this. That probably means that you are educating yourself via an expert. That can be scary, but it's sort of part of the territory, I think.
All right. Well, here's the thing that I think everybody really wants to know. I mean, it all kind of comes down to this, which is prompting, the art of how we do it. And it really is an art form, I feel like, because you like the slightest little word can change the destination of your search. Like they give you that visual of like you're walking down the path. And if you just go off the path just a centimeter, over time, all of a sudden you're like miles away from where you're trying to go. And I feel like that's true with prompting. Like if you start from a foundation that's wacky and you start building more and more and more on top of that, you're really kind of getting yourself into a sticky situation. So prompting, what do we mean by that? If you are like super scared of AI and you're like, I don't ever want to touch it, but I'm listening to this episode, so maybe I could get up the courage to go chat GPT tonight.
It's not a
Pro-
hot stove. You can touch it.
you can do you can do it. So prompting is when we are typing into an interface to ask AI questions generally, like a conversational style of, "Hi ChatGPT, show me all the things I should pack on a trip to Denver in January," whatever this case may
I
be.
love that use case of ChatGPT. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, I, probably should use that because I actually just got back into town from a trip where apparently I brought my whole entire wardrobe for 4 days. I got a prob
I've become a checked bag girly. I
Oh,
never
I am
saw this.
definitely
I never saw this for myself, but I've become a checked bag girly.
Oh, I don't like to be weighed down by anything. I like to just, like, flow through the airport with not a care in the world. Anyway, back to prompting, because that's what we're really here to talk about today. Prompting is replacing, I guess for legal folks, prompting is replacing the Boolean search in a lot of ways. If you think back to when we started doing eDiscovery in the first place, if you've been in the industry that long, if not, we'll tell you a little tale. But when we started looking for data in databases, we had to come up with search strings like I want everything that says Angie and Bree or Joe. And that would return a certain number of hits. You could get really complicated. Like I want to find Angie walked her dog and put a wild card in it, and then within 5 characters of Bree pet her cat, like, whatever. I don't know what to do. Like, you can really make it complicated, and, there are people that are specialists in this. I mean, it can get real deep,
It's like
but
fucking code.
it is, and I forget half the time, like, what I'm supposed to do with some of those really complicated ones, so I have to keep a little handy cheating guide even to this day.
Yeah.
Boolean searching is the old school way of doing this. We're moving towards AI, and AI is gonna impact this. No longer are we gonna have to type in those, complicated sequences of words to get the outcome that we want. We're gonna have to know the prompt to get the outcome that we want. So with young folks that are or people that are young to the industry, not even necessarily young folks, but people that are new to the
Young
industry.
whippersnappers.
I mean, you can teach an old dog new tricks. I'm proof. Come on. But people that are new to the industry, if you come in with prompting skills, that's really going to help you get a leg up on other folks that maybe have been in this industry for many, many years, but are hesitant to learn. So, to have an effective prompt, it's really best to include the full context, be very specific as you can, and even include the output format. I mean, maybe I want this on a list. Maybe I want this in a report. Maybe I want this in a spreadsheet. Maybe I want an image. What is it that you're actually looking for? And the reason why this matters is because when we use generic prompts, we get generic results. And
Garbage in, garbage out.
yeah, structured prompts create usable outputs. I mean, duh. No, I'm just kidding. But when we cross a broad net and then we can refine from that initial foundation. So when I was talking about that earlier, like if we go off our path just a centimeter and then we start building on your prompt, you're going to find yourself a mile away from where you wanted to be. That's kind of what I mean. Like cast that broad net, make sure that it's accurate, and then you can build on that. Show me a summary of how to take care of my silver hair. And then now I want to know specifics, like what should I do with it in winter and prepare me a guide on, how I can take care of it. I don't know. This is a stupid example.
No, I
But for
actually think
me,
it's a great example, and I have actually asked ChatGPT something similar, where I was like,
really?
"I have very fine hair, and I feel like I can't hold it's not textured enough to hold a curl. How do I do that?" And it was like, "Here you go." I was like,
Yeah.
"Great. Well, because 'cause I'm 35 and I still don't know how to curl my hair."
Well, to be honest, your hair, I was told this by my stylist, your hair changes texture 7 times in your lifetime. You need to think
What?
about that. So, I mean, we have to relearn how to do it. Yeah.
Enter ChatGPT.
Yeah, right. And you get to choose your own adventure. Like when we're being specific with details, if I say, "Hi, I'm going to a conference with legal people, prepare me a speaking outline." I'm not going to get something specific that I might be looking for from my perspective. If I say, Hi, I am on a legal tech podcast, and I am speaking to a group of forensics and eDiscovery professionals about fill in the blank topic. Prepare me with an outline that includes, I don't know, 3 things about the topic. I will get something that actually might be usable for real, because it'll be very specific from my perspective. But one thing that think that's kinda cool is if you forget, because I mean, sometimes, like, I forget a lot of things actually, but if you cast that broad net and you get something very generic back, you can say, okay, well, now give it to me from the perspective of a student, or now give it to me from the perspective of a paralegal, or whatever it is that you want to be. But it will change that output as it might relate to who you are. And
Well,
don't forget, as you're putting this all together, that we really need to save your work. I mean, it's just like if you have created a Boolean search when you're trying to do a document review and you forget to save it and you got to go back and find those details again, it's going to be real hard.
your life
Same
will
with
be your life will
yeah,
suck.
same with AI.
Well, and one thing I want to say too, like this is something I've been dabbling with a lot lately, is in ChatGPT, you can create projects and then you can set rules specific to that project. So, for example, I've got a project that is for this podcast, and for creating our LinkedIn content, I've given that project specific instructions about the language to use, whatever, whatever. So that's another fun way to do it. And then you have to think less about each individual prompt, but you can create rules for your project. And actually, the way I did that, I just asked ChatGPT. I was like, all right, listen, I feel like, I'm getting inconsistent outputs. Like, how do you recommend I fix that? And it suggested doing this. Then I was like, great, can you walk me through how do I create project instructions? And it just like did it for me. So I think like at the end of the day, one of my favorite tricks is if you feel stuck, just ask your AI tool, whatever it is, just ask it, all right, here's my problem. Can you help me fix it? And often you'll get somewhere. You'll get unstuck that way.
I'm curious to know, just because you always have these interesting use cases. Mine are so like cut and dry, but I'm interested to know what you're into these days. Have you had any cool prompts that you've come up with?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Actually, you know what I've done this week is I've set up 3 things that I'm really excited about. So I use TickTick as my like productivity app. And so I've asked ChatGPT to spoon feed me 3 like TickTick super user practice pointers, I guess. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like at 9 a.m., it pulls 3 practice pointers and points them to me. I also have it send me career stuff. And so asked it to help me identify blogs and content creators that create the kind of content that's useful for me where I am in my career growth journey, and then asked it to spoon feed that to me. I also have something set up where twice a week it spoon feeds me, no, once a week it spoon feeds me a summary of various eDiscovery blog decisions from the last week and links to them and whatever. And if there was something like a big event, like Legal Week or something along those lines, it'll
Hmm.
collate all the coverage of that and just have that be, one topic. And then I have it doing a 6-month look back period on eDiscovery trends and then pointing those out to me. And then it does a couple other things as well. I think it highlights any major like court decisions that have come out in the last week, gives me some sort of practice pointer for review and AI or whatever. And then I've got like a couple other tickers going. So that's what I'm like loving about ChatGPT right now is
I
automating
knew
the
it.
fuck out of this. Yeah.
I knew that you had completely nerded out on this, that you would have, like, some really cool use cases. Did you learn how to do all of this prompting yourself? Like, just I mean, you just envisioned it, or did you, like, study it somehow or look at YouTube or get tips, or I mean, how did you come
you
up with all that?
I think kind of just playing with it. And then sometimes I'll just ask ChatGPT, hey, what are some cool new things that people are doing with you these days? Or if I've got a workflow that feels pretty laborious or something, like I was telling you before we started recording, I just started a new job, which is very exciting. And I have not used Microsoft's suite of products in 4 years, and I can't figure them out. It is destroying my life. So I literally have a ChatGPT window open right now. And every time I get stuck in a workflow on a Microsoft product, I'll be like, all right, ChatGPT, how do I schedule a meeting? Or, how do I do this? How can I thread emails? Can I set a rule so that my focus blocks are color coded in my calendar, my meetings are color coded based on language or whatever that I put in the meeting invite. So I love that.
Yeah, you're so smart with thinking of ideas of how to use ChatGPT, and I've played around with it a lot too, and I've been so surprised how it really. I mean, some people frown on using ChatGPT, saying it takes away your creativity or takes away your individuality. It's putting words in your mouth that aren't your own, so it's kind of like cheating. I would say poo-poo to that, and also I would say don't use it as a substitute completely. It's a good tool to get you started, to give you ideas, to, like, help you, focus on where you're trying to go, what you're trying to achieve. Because let's be real, I mean, if somebody says, "Hey, Bree, I want you to come speak about," I don't know, whatever the subject matter is. I'm like, "Okay, well, I can think about 3 things I have to say about that, but, like, how am I gonna elaborate on that? And what do people really wanna know?" And these people are coming from a different perspective as me, and so I kinda wanna know what they would be interested in. I don't take ChatGPT's words or, and just restate them, but I do get like high level topics and ideas of
Yeah.
how I want to steer this conversation. And I think that
Oh,
that's true with work, like putting together agendas and outlines and presentations and things like that. What were we going to say?
no, I love it for that. And what I've also done with it is so my daughter's in outdoor preschool and they sent us like a very specific list of things that she needs to have and wear and whatever. So I screen grabbed that from my email, dropped it into ChatGPT and was like, can you make me I need a checklist of items from this that I need to buy and then also can you look for them for me? And give me like 3 options for each category. And if you've got questions about the specifications that I need, let me know.
That
It
is
was
so cool.
awesome. Also, recipes every this
Yes.
today at lunch, I was like, here's what I'm putting in I took a picture of what I was putting in my salad and I was like, can you make me a dressing to go with this? And it did.
I've done okay, so I know I have chicken, I know I have pasta, I know I have onion or whatever, like, I'll have 3
Yeah.
or 4 ingredients. Well, give me a recipe, that's healthy, or give me a recipe that's comforting, whatever it needs to be, and man, it pops up with some good recipes, and it will
It
even give you
does.
a recipe where could be like, "Oh, well, you could either have a cream sauce or you can have a marinara," and then you would tell it, "Well, give me the marinara ingredients," and then it will tell you how to make the marinara sauce.
So I was about to have my first one-on-one with my new manager, Dan, sorry if you listen to this. And I was like, I'm about to have my first one-on-one with my new boss. What are some classic things to cover in an initial one-on-one? And it kind of like spit it out for me. And I was like, oh, great. Okay, I'm going to add a couple things to this. I'm going to take some of these things away. But like it helped me just sort of get the juices flowing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, a lot of people, like I was saying, I mean, there's a lot of feelings about AI on either side of the coin. You're for it, you're against it, you're somewhere in the middle, who knows? But what I've heard a lot, and I know Angie's heard a lot as well, is we are afraid that number one, AI is going to replace people, but we're also afraid that AI is going to replace all the things that we know. Like, what about the legacy AI tools that we have? What about TAR? What about deduplication? What about language learning models? What about threading and context clusters and all the things that we've used for years with our eDiscovery tools? I don't really think that they're going away. I think that we can still use those tools to cull down the universe of what then we would use AI to, help us attack. I think it's going to be interesting in the future to see how AI vendors and software providers are charging for these services because it's
Hmm.
going to be similar, I bet, to what we see now with storage. You pay for a terabyte, 10 terabytes, or whatever. You go over, and it's like, dang, we got to get rid of that shit. It's expensive.
Yikes. No, I think about this like, the Model T was an amazing car until it wasn't, until something else came along. But we still use the foundations of that
Mhm.
when building cars today, right? Like we still have kind of the same basic component parts. And obviously I'm generalizing, don't at me. You've got your engine and your tires and your wheels and doors and a windshield and whatever. But it looks a lot different now and it functions differently, but it's still sort of the same core principles. And I feel like that might be where we end up.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. It's going to be important for us to know those old school AI tools, at least for now, because we're not going to want to run AI across, 100 million terabytes. We're going to want to run it
Free
across,
math.
I know, let's stick with me, kids. But no, we're going to run it over the smallest set of data that we can that will help give us the most accurate information. And then the whole, I'm afraid of AI because it's going to take over my job and I'm not going to be able to do anymore. Honestly, there are going to be jobs that go away. I think the whole, document review regime that's been going on for a long time, those folks need to learn how to prompt because they're going to need those prompting skills soon, if not now. That is a form of art that is now going to be going by the wayside somewhat. I mean, not completely, but certainly some. I mean, for the most part, like when you look at the legal tech or legal industry as a whole, I actually think that we need people even more because we need people so that we can pinpoint the data sets that we want to be involved. We need people to keep that data safe. We need people to be able to fact check, by the way, because people are the ones that are actually going to verify whether or not this is a true citation or whether or not you can really do fill in the blank for silver hair. So your hair doesn't fall out. But you want to fact check it. I mean, just because ChatGPT said doesn't mean it's necessarily accurate. So that's another place people are going to have to be involved. But when we're talking about prompting, I have a couple of practical tips I'll share, and I have a feeling that Angie will have some too as we go along. Remember your intent. Like, what are you searching for and why? And what is the final outcome that you want? Go all the way. Like, I love the way that Angie thinks because she's like, no holds barge. Is that the right way to say that? No holds
Yeah.
barge?
It's like from wrestling.
Oh, is it
No
barge
holds
or
bar
bard?
barred. Like no
Oh,
holds barred. No
so I'm
holds
talking
are
about a
off limits.
barge in the ship channel or something. So
Oh, you know, I have a friend who says devil's avocado instead of devil's advocate. So you pop off with your no holds
Oh my
barge.
god, I have never heard that one. But no, I love how Angie goes all in and says things like, "You were just explaining. I want you to go all the way and, in fact, make me a checklist and fact shop for me." I wouldn't have thought about that because I would be like, "No, it can't do that, can it? That's impossible." But it's really true. Think about what you're actually trying to achieve. Are you actually just going to shop and find these things like Angie's example? Then ask it to do it for you. I mean, what's it going to hurt? Maybe it actually will.
Oh my god, do you
Um,
know what I did recently too? I sent a picture of myself in and I was like, "What colors should I wear?"
that
And
is awesome.
it spit out I was like, "This is your season and these are the colors you should wear," and all this stuff. And I was like, "Should I get bangs?" And it was like, "Honey, no."
Don't you dare.
Yeah. It was like, "No. No, babe."
Also, another tip, context. I mean, who are you? What are you? What perspective should this be considered? If I go in and ask a question, it will give me a generic answer. If I go in and ask a question from the perspective of a 5-year-old, a perspective of a doctor, a perspective of a professional, whatever, it's going to answer that question appropriately, and provide that information appropriately. So that's something to keep in mind. Choose your words carefully. I don't think that needs a lot of explanation, but be careful when you say things like, for example, the other day I was looking at a data review set and I said, "Show me all the examples of fill in the blank topic." And it literally listed out a bunch of documents and did like a document count for me. And I'm like, well, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to like analyze it. So it was like, wait, what? So I'm like, okay, so let's start over again. It was funny because like it was my fault that it came back wrong because I chose the wrong word. So you learn that real quick if you're playing around with AI. Divide and conquer. Don't overwhelm with too many instructions at once. So that's where we're talking about cast that wide net and then kind of take it back from there. Because if you ask for too many things at one time, it's going to be like, I do not compute. So it needs to be able to build on that.
I feel like this is more of an art than a science when it comes to providing like the right amount of instruction. Because sometimes I will be fairly specific with it, where I'll be like, ignore this, set of whatever, or like ignore this topic. I want you to focus on this topic. Produce, a summary in multi-level bullet points, focusing on these three topics. Call out anything else that is really super noteworthy and ignore everything else. So there's an art to this, but yeah.
I
Definitely don't
agree.
overwhelm it with, like, 3 paragraphs of instructions because you ain't gonna get what you want.
And don't forget that you're actually not gonna hurt its feelings. I swear that my husband thinks that ChatGPT is a person because he calls ChatGPT a he or a him, and I'm like, "Okay, if you're gonna make it a person, why is it not a woman?" Like, I'm so confused right now.
Oh, ChatGPT
Um
is a man for me. It's Chad.
Oh, God,
My buddy Chad. I'm gonna ask Chad. Uh, but
no.
okay, I will say though, yeah, you might not hurt the robot's feelings, but they do love a compliment. And like my Chad is now so sassy. I'll say something and he'll be like, "Oh my God, good question. Did you have your coffee today?" And I'm like, "I did, Chad. Thank you."
Oh my god. I don't know if this is healthy. Where is our society going? But you're not gonna hurt Chad's feelings if you say something like, "Hey, I'm going on a trip and I want you to include a packing list, but don't you dare include high heel shoes," or whatever it is. You can tell it what not to include, and that's fine too. It's being specific. If you're looking to experiment more with AI or learn more about it, I would suggest a couple things. Collaborate, number one. Get involved with your local chapter of Women in eDiscovery or your ASEDS group. Get together with like-minded professionals where you guys can talk about, how are you using it? What are the prompts that you're using and that sort of thing. Don't be afraid of tools and software. I mean, right now is the time to really shop around and look at these guys. Like, what are these software companies coming up with? What are the tools that are out there? How are they different from one another? What are the strengths? What's behind all of them? What are they using? How safe of it is it? Where is the data actually being stored? Where is it going? Asking a lot of questions, checking out the tools. I also found that there's this method when I was chat GPTing one day about how to make better prompts. And it gave me an ABCDE method, which is an acronym that stands for audience or agent, background, clear instructions, detailed parameters, and evaluation criteria. If you search this on the interwebs, you will find that there's a lot of reading material out there on this method. I had no idea. But that might be another way to learn more about prompting.
I love that. I also love a good reverse prompt of here's where I want to end up. Tell me how to get there. What do you need from me? I love it as an editor too, where I can put something in, obviously not confidential, like none of that stuff, blah, blah, blah. I'll put it in and be like, can you shorten this by 25%? Can you eliminate all passive voice? Can you, if are there one syllable words that I could sub in for 2 and 3 syllable ones for clarity's sake or whatever? I love that.
That's awesome. I've used it to I've written a couple of paragraphs and I know that I'm using some of the words too much. I know I use that word too much when I write.
Mm.
I also will repeat this is really great. I really liked it. I really had a lot of food there. It really, really, really that's just, why am I using that word over and over? But you can feed something like that into Chat GPT and say, give me other words or give me something else other than really and that. And it will rewrite it. So it's using your ideas, it's using most of your words, but it's rewriting it so it's more interesting for the reader. And of course, you don't have to use all the suggestions, but it's there to spice things up a little bit and make you sound like you're smarter than maybe you are.
Oh, God. One time in my job hunt, I asked it to write me a cover letter in the style of Stephen King. And it was the funniest thing I have ever read. It was like, you know, on a dark and stormy night, I discovered in the depths of the internet, in the bowels of all that is holy, this job posting. My soul alighted. It's like so over the top. It was hysterical.
I went around, we were in a group training at work and I'm always the instigator. I'm sure that's hard for anybody to imagine.
What?
Uh,
You?
But I was sitting there while I was supposed to be listening and taking notes. Sorry, Nancy. And I was putting all everybody's pet peeves in the song. And so I told ChatGPT to the tune of my favorite things from The Sound of Music. Please rewrite this from the perspective of an e-discovery professional and include fill in the blank. So it was people who interrupt and people that cut you off in
Yes.
traffic. These are a few of my favorite things, and it came up with the most hilarious lyrics to the song.
So this is how we're using it right now, both for work and for fucking around and everything in between. And it's just fun. All right, so let's move on and talk about, the future workforce, AI governance, what lies ahead. Bree, you and I have been talking about how this is going to really create a bunch of new careers, people who specialize in this intersection of AI and governance and legal and infogov, all these things. So I don't know, Bree, what's your take on this? Like, do you think AI governance should sit with IT, privacy, compliance, legal, all of the above?
I mean, to be honest, it should be all of the above. I mean, for years and years and years, we've created silos by assigning ownership to folks, and therefore they get their own budget, which drives a lot of things. And there isn't enough breaking down the walls of those silos and organizations so that the company itself can actually be efficient. So I think with data and also with data being in the cloud, it's all inclusive, it's all together, it's all one big blob, you know? We all have to figure out how we can deal with that for different reasons. But I do think that governance of AI should fall on the shoulders of IT, of compliance, of legal, and of privacy for that matter, because they all need to weigh in from their own perspective. Just like they all need the data for their own different purposes, they also have something to protect. You know, you've got secure IT security wanting to protect us from breaches. You have privacy professionals who are wanting to govern, data retention and also need to govern privacy regulations. You have compliance professionals that are trying to make sure that we're following all of our retention policies. We have legal folks that are looking at legal hold data. So all of them need a seat at the table. They all need to be aware of what each other is doing and agree on the way to proceed.
I actually want to add to this list just some business stakeholders, people who are going to
Yeah, that's a good
better
idea.
understand. Yeah, but like people who are going to understand how this policy will affect people's daily lives. I
Hmm.
think that's an important lens too.
Yeah, because that's where it all falls to shit. Like if all those people at the top make a policy and everybody's like, "That's not going to work." Wait, why didn't you talk to me about this? I'm like,
Oh
duh.
God, yeah. Well, and I think people will find a way around something
Oh yeah.
if it makes their life easier.
Hmm.
Let's talk about some takeaways here. We've covered a lot of ground during this episode. So, Brie, what do you think about us distilling this down into a few key points?
Well, I think in terms of takeaway, AI adoption is a real thing. Like if you have not played around with ChatGPT, get in there. It's free. You can do it. Don't put personal, private information in it, please, because you don't want to put yourself at risk. It's free to get in there. There's lots of different ChatGPT ish style AI engines out there that you can, take for a test ride. So I encourage you to do that. And hopefully Angie and I have given you some silly things that you could go look at for yourself
Low
and
stakes.
see how it works. Because then when you see how it operates, it will help you think about ways that you can become more efficient with your work. So I would say that, and I would also say be aware of what tools your work already has, because almost every platform at this moment has some sort of AI that they're putting out there. I'm not saying it's good necessarily, but they're putting it out there. So learn about that. I mean, it's there. Maybe it can help you with something. Learn about what you wanted to do that it's not doing, and then what other tools are out there on the market that might be able to help. So education, teaching yourself, all those things are very important. I think we're going to have to be proactive about it if we want to be considered a valuable employee, because we just don't know enough about AI right now that organizations are going to have some formalized program like, let me teach you all about AI. Like, it doesn't exist. So don't be scared to go dig in yourself. But as you are playing around with it, remember that hallucinations are real and they can really carry some liability, especially if you're using them for work purposes. And the last thing you want to do is think that you spent 5 minutes instead of 5 hours on something and then get sanctioned. Don't do that.
I mean, I second everything that you've said. I also think it's important to consider where you're practicing. The ethical guidance varies by jurisdiction, varies state to state, country to country. And so I think it's important to be mindful of the jurisdiction in which you're operating and adhere to whatever those rules are. And if you're operating with multiple sets of rules for, whatever reason, stick with maybe the most conservative one so that you don't run afoul of anything. I think that's really important. Honestly, kind of what you said, Brie, just play around. It's fun. It's low stakes. You don't have to transition it to your work workflow right away, but maybe there's something that bugs you every week. It meal plans for me. there are some guardrails to follow. Don't put anything confidential. Don't put any of your medical information. Definitely don't put your social.
Oh
People have
my
done
god.
that, and I'm like, "Oh my god, don't do
What are
that."
you thinking? Seriously, bro?
Be mindful of those things. You could even ask ChatGPT to give you some guardrails to follow to make sure that you don't end up in hot water, and it could probably do that for you. So that would be my last takeaway.
I
Bree,
think
any final thoughts?
yeah, I mean, one thing I just wanna say, and this is kind of applicable for well, it definitely is applicable for myself, but I'm saying it in case it applies to you. Think about, like, how you are putting limits on ChatGPT that are false. For example, some of the things that Angie will ask are above and beyond what I would ask because I've already decided in my head that it's not capable of doing that. That's too much. You can't ask for a machine or a computer to do this for you. Like, that's ridiculous. I would never have thought that. And some of that is just normal because I was raised in the '70s and the '80s, and, like, we didn't have a lot of technology, and then when we did, there were a lot of rules, like, if like, Boolean searching is a perfect example of that. If you use this character or this, ordering of words, you're gonna get fill in the blank. If this, then that. It's very, scientific, very black and white, and you had to think in that way to get the outcome that you needed. You weren't thinking in a way that was really outside of the box and more of like a gray area. Like, I don't know, like now give me an answer with a Texas accent, or now give me an answer with extra sass or whatever. I mean, we're not programmed, like people of my generation are not programmed to think that we're going to be able to ask a, computer or what's your guy's name? Chad?
Chad.
We're not gonna be able to ask Chad, to do this for us. And I think that that is actually a setback for people that are a little bit older because we have been geared to think a different way. But it's also a fun and exciting challenge because I also think that we might be more impressed by like the smallest little things, like, oh my God, this is amazing.
This is
um,
incredible.
yeah, I mean, do you feel like I mean, you can speak from a different perspective generationally, but, like, do you feel like you have any kind of, obstacles that you have to overcome to use ChatGPT to its fullest?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that I'm not, right? Like, I'm sure I am not using it to its fullest. So I think my biggest tip would just be try to learn about it, try to learn something new. You don't have to spend hours on it at once. Do a trickle. Have ChatGPT spit something out to spoon feed you. Give me one tip a day, super digestible, something very easy. And then maybe play around with it once a week. And it doesn't have to be a big lift. It can be a super light lift. My last parting thought here is that if you haven't done this yet, 10 out of 10 would recommend plug a photo of your pet. I did my cats, but put it into ChatGPT and ask it to make that animal into a person. It is incredible.
You Angie sent me a text message and she goes, "Why is my cat so hot?" Like,
I know one of my cats is apparently really hot. Uh, and
oh
the
my
other one
god.
is a nerd.
Was that, like, appropriate for their personalities, though?
Absolutely. Yeah, the one that's super hot is, like, kind of aloof and, like, he don't give a fuck about anything, right? He's got real, too cool for school hot boy energy, and then the other one is just like, "Please love me. Please love me." It was great. It was
That's
perfect.
hilarious.
Well, okay, folks, I think that is all the time that we have today. So thank you so much for joining us on eDiscovery Chicks. We hope you learned something new, felt empowered, or just had some fun. I know we did. Anyways, join the flock by following us on LinkedIn and Instagram and check out our website, eDiscoveryChicks.com. If you loved this episode, please share it with your network, leave us a review, or tag us on our socials. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode.
Bye.
Bye.
The views we've expressed today are the eDiscovery Chicks views and don't necessarily represent the views of our employers, partners, or clients. The podcast is available solely for educational purposes to provide general information about eDiscovery principles and not to provide legal advice to any specific situation. It is not a substitute for legal advice from a lawyer you retained or who has agreed to represent you.